Mathematics Education in Cuba. Didactics of Mathematics, Task 1, David Rodriguez. Ford Tutor, Claudia Patricia Munera Mora. Universidad Nacional Abierta y a Distancia. This video will provide information on Cuba's educational history, reforms, and current practices. Cuba was colonized by Spain from the early 16th century until 1898. The University of Havana, founded in 1727, is the oldest university in Cuba and one of the oldest in the American continent. In 1900, Cuba had a relatively average literacy rate, considered one of the highest among developing countries. By the early 1900s, Cuba had a strong education system, but what kept the literacy rate low was the fact that only half of the country's children attended school. Schools were beyond the reach of the poorest Cubans and those who lived in distant rural areas, therefore dooming them to illiteracy. After the Cuban Revolution in 1959, the new government placed the reconstruction of the education system as a top priority and practically guaranteed literacy and education to every citizen by opening 817 literacy centers and even had teachers visit students in every isolated corner of Cuba. All that because at the time of the 1959 revolution, Cuba had one of the lowest levels of literacy and basic education in the region, and since then its economic development has been seriously affected by a US-imposed trade embargo. Notwithstanding the foregoing, in 1998, Cuba was ranked first in international math and reading tests by UNESCO. Cuba is one of the poorest countries in Latin America, and certainly lacks the resources of countries like Mexico, Argentina, Venezuela, Brazil, or Colombia. How could a poor and isolated small nation situated in the middle of the Caribbean have a higher educational achievement than those giants? Well, let's explore some of the practices. Cuban children excel academically for fairly straightforward reasons. Bear in mind that not one, but a combination of factors contributes to the quality of Cuban schools. Students attend schools intensely focused on instruction. Schools are staffed by well-trained, regularly supervised teachers in a social environment that is dedicated to high achievement for all. The Cuban system combines quality teaching, high academic expectations, and a tightly controlled school management hierarchy with well-defined goals and responsibilities, a combination that distinguishes Cuban education from other systems in Latin America. Public spending on education amounts to 6.7% of the gross national product, twice the proportion of many Latin American countries. Extremely low teacher-student ratio, 12 students per teacher, is half of the Latin American average. Professional development focuses entirely on pedagogy and child development. Nationwide curricula, low-cost, high-quality instructional materials, outreach to rural children, attention to special needs, system-wide evaluation and competition among classes and schools, linking school and work, education for school cohesion and values education, participation in school management, complete development of the individual, holistic education, educational programs for parents, among others. Conclusion. Although there are many problems on such a small island, the Cubans are indeed doing many things right in education. As previously mentioned, not one but a combination of factors contributes to the quality of Cuban schools, which should be replicated in order to better the education of mathematics in Latin